Is North Carolina a bunch of rednecks? Does everybody watch basketball? And is there really pirate gold off the coast? We're going to answer those questions and more. So get out your favorite bottle of barbecue sauce as we get ready to unbox the beautiful state of North Carolina. Okay, let's turn that off. Thank you. So, North Carolina, what a beautiful state. In fact, this is my home state. And I have to say, of all the states I've been to, this state has it all. Cool mountains and awesome beaches, friendly people, and kinda clean modern cities. Okay, so not all of them are clean and modern. In fact, not many are. North Carolina cities have some work to do, but they're getting better. But to get the big picture overview of the Tar Heel State, we need to look at a map and discover this state's wonders. North Carolina is pretty much comprised of 6 major areas. We'll begin on the western side of the state, which is mostly mountains. The most well-known of this part of the state is the city of Asheville, which has almost 100,000 people. And that number is growing every single day. Asheville is a pretty neat mountain town where there's a lot of breweries. Nearby is the Biltmore Hotel, which you've probably heard of. They do a big to-do at Christmas time. Also in these mountains are several mediocre ski resorts here along the Virginia and Tennessee state line. They're okay for skiing. They'll do in a pinch. You have Charlotte, which is the 17th biggest city in America. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the nation too. And it's growing so fast, the suburbs are actually now in South Carolina. There are 2 other large metro areas in the state, and they kind of make up one longish giant metro area. The western side of this area is mostly made up of Winston-Salem and Greensboro. They call this the Triad. Then the other main metro area to the east is called the Triangle. You may have heard of this region. The Triangle is the cities of Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill and their suburbs. This region is pretty much the fastest growing area in the country outside of North Dallas. These 3 cities have major universities, hospitals, and a growing number of tech companies. Hence, this is also called the Research Triangle. We'll talk about the universities here when we get into the sports. Now on the eastern coast, there's 2 major regions. The Outer Banks makes up a series of island chains which stretch from the Virginia border all the way down to Cape Hatteras. This thin strip of land is made up mostly of vacation homes, beach rentals, sightseeing destinations, lighthouses, tacky beach shops, and places to get ice cream. That's really it. It's really quiet here and the water's warm. North Carolina beaches are far superior to those in California, by the way. The other region of note is the lower Outer Banks. This is a different set of islands, which are far more populated, especially in the middle, where there's a large population in the Wilmington metro area. The further south down these island chains you get, the more rural it gets until you get to the South Carolina border. And finally, we have the rest of North Carolina. It's pretty much woods, farmland, and rednecks. Some areas close to the coast are wide open, where farmers grow corn, beans, tobacco, and cotton. Other areas, like way out here and here, are pretty much windy roads and somewhat wooded areas with average homes and a bunch of trailer parks. In fact, you could call much of the state a big pine-forested trailer park. Asheboro is the largest of all redneck havens in the state. It might be the most redneck city in all of America, actually. Asheboro has 20 dollar stores, a Walmart, 3 Waffle Houses, a Huddle House, a truck stop, and a damn river runs through it. Seriously, outside of downtown Asheboro, on every corner, there's a pawn shop or a check cashing center or a dollar store or a place to buy and sell guns. And when you drive around some of the back roads in Randolph County, it's almost as if every house is either a trailer or a farmhouse. If you live in Asheboro or near Asheboro, you live in redneck heaven. One other note, while Charlotte and Raleigh are booming in terms of new businesses, suburbs, and modern improvements, Greensboro and Winston-Salem are kind of fading away. Once proud tobacco centers, these cities haven't really experienced the resurgence that their little sister to the east, Durham, has. Durham is actually booming, and downtown got a facelift. They had a new ballpark here and tons of places for tech companies to work. But Winston-Salem and Greensboro have not.
Gee, we ought to do something, Fred. Okay? How's about taking that? I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break. That's it! Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack.
Smoking has been a big part of the North Carolina culture, and the region is still home to many large tobacco manufacturers. North Carolina is still by far the leading maker of tobacco-based products. As such, in many areas along the eastern seaboard and in wide swaths of redneck land up here, you will see people smoking at a high rate. If you wanted to move to North Carolina, unless you're wealthy or a hippie, you'll likely want to live near one of the larger cities. If you're ranking the best places to live here by safety, schools, and quality of life, then you'd want to live in the northern Charlotte suburbs here, in a place like Davidson, or in the Raleigh suburbs here, in a place like Cary. Many of Raleigh's suburbs are new, clean, and safe, and this whole area here ranks atop many lists for the best places to raise a family in the country. If location doesn't matter and you just want to get out of the Northeast because you're sick of the cold, then you can pretty much pick anywhere. It's all pretty peaceful, except in a few areas on the southern and eastern side of the state. Places like Kinston, Lumberton, and Fayetteville have a history of high crime and lower quality of life. Cost of living wise, North Carolina's middle of the road. Taxes are average, home prices are reasonable. It's not dirt cheap like in the deep south, but the state doesn't overtax you like in other eastern states up the coast. As a whole, the state of North Carolina is kind of a transition zone. It's not really a southern state culture-wise, nor does it have the East Coast vibe. There really isn't a culture here anymore though. There's no booming music scene and food is pretty basic. Barbecue is something the state's known for, but you don't see too many authentic barbecue places unless you're way out in the sticks. Although, like breweries, there are some new hip barbecue joints springing up again in some of the bigger cities. But if you're wanting to move to North Carolina to experience the South or the East, or any real kind of culture, you won't find it here, mister. And no, I'm not a realtor.
I love the food here. Why are you hating on it, Nick?
Hey, Mappy, I know you do, but you just like hush puppies. Hey, can you make some hush puppies appear? I'm hungry.
I'll try.
Those aren't hush puppies? And that was pretty weird, Mappy.
Hey!
Okay, so before we talk about what North Carolina is known for more, let's talk about a few facts. You've probably heard of the Wright brothers. They first flew an airplane on a sandy hillside near Kitty Hawk in the Outer Banks. Now, people in Ohio like to claim the Wright brothers because they are from Ohio, but they first flew an airplane here in North Carolina. Hence the reason license plates here say first in flight. The reason they call it the Tar Heel State is because a long time ago, North Carolina made a lot of tar, which was taken from large pine forests here. A lot of the tar was used to paint and seal the bottoms of old ships. But that was clearly before America was even in color. The first English colony ever was located in Roanoke Island, way out here in the Outer Banks. Then one day, the colony of Roanoke mysteriously disappeared without a trace. And finally, 3 U.S. presidents were born here. Now, pirates are a big deal in the state. Due to the state's geography, the North Carolina coast was a perfect place for ships to stop and rest and pillage. In fact, this area of ocean is referred to as the graveyard of the Atlantic. More than 5,000 ships are known to have sunk off or on the North Carolina coast. Rumor is you can still go down and find pirate treasure. That is, if you have the means to go down and get it. Blackbeard the pirate made his home in the city of Beaufort. The home he once lived in still stands to this day, people. Stereotypes of North Carolina are pretty much established. One is that the state loves their barbecue, which is kind of true, but a majority of the state are new transplants, and these newcomers to the state don't bring their love of barbecue with them. So it could be said that the barbecue culture here is kind of going away. But the die-hard barbecuers that do live here draw a line between the two styles of Carolina barbecue. There's the Eastern style barbecue, which is mostly vinegar based, and the Western style, which is tomato based. They're both good. Barbecue rookies don't really have a preference one way or the other. It's usually the biscuits and hush puppies that folks like Mappy and other barbecue novices flock to. And speaking of rivalries, basketball is a big deal in this state, mostly college basketball. Here in the Triangle, there are 4 major universities: Duke, North Carolina, NC State, and Wake Forest. Duke and North Carolina is probably the biggest sports rivalry in the country. When these two teams play, kids will start fires when they win and pout all spring long when they lose. NASCAR is a big deal in this state, so that stereotype's true. In fact, Charlotte's home to NASCAR's headquarters, and just about every single NASCAR driver lives in a fancy house north of Charlotte. Politics-wise, this was once a very liberal state. Going back to the 1870s, North Carolina voted to elect a Democrat for president just about every single time. Then in the 1970s, it became very much a hard red state. But of late, as new, younger, more progressive people have moved here, it's expected to be a purple state moving forward, which means too close to call, people. Also of note, North Carolina is the 9th most populated state and the 12th fastest growing of all states. Now, we talked about food a little bit. North Carolina is home to many recognizable brands. Pepsi was invented in the town of New Bern, way over here along the East Coast. Cheerwine was born in the city of Salisbury. Bojangles, a fast food place known for biscuit sandwiches, first opened in Charlotte. And Krispy Kreme got its start in Winston-Salem, and they are very good to eat. Demographics-wise, North Carolina is about 62% white, 22% black, 10% Hispanic, and 3% Asian. Less than 2% of the population is Native American. Let's talk about sports. This is Michael Jordan. He's probably one of the most well-known athletes ever. He went to UNC and grew up in Wilmington. He helped North Carolina beat Georgetown in the national title game in 1982. And then later on, he had his own shoe line that kids would beat each other up over. So sad. Carolina has had mixed successes in professional sports. The state has no Major League Baseball team, so people are either fans of the nearby Atlanta Braves or the Washington Nationals. The Carolina Panthers are the state's NFL team, and they're in Charlotte. South Carolina tries to also claim them, but they're obviously clearly a North Carolina team. North Carolina has an NBA team, the Charlotte Hornets, but nobody cares about them. They're not very good. The Carolina Hurricanes are the state's NHL team. They're in Raleigh. They have a decent fan base, and they won a Stanley Cup in 2006. Speaking of hurricanes, let's talk about North Carolina's weather. The state is front and center for every hurricane season every single year. Over the years, many large hurricanes have blown through this state. Fran was a bad one, but there hasn't been one that's been completely devastating yet. Folks here are used to them, though. When you talk to old-timers, they'll recall the time that Floyd or Matthew or Diana or Donna blew through their town. It's mostly pine trees along the East Coast here, so there hasn't been a lot of damage, but the flooding has caused extensive issues. Luckily, most of the East Coast here is composed of sandhills. Literally, the whole area is called the Sandhills. It's a big wide area of sand duney type landscape. The weather in North Carolina is kind of mild, actually. It gets super hot and humid in July and August, but autumn and springs are pleasant. It snows maybe 4 or 5 inches a year on average in most of the state, except the mountains, which get quite a bit of snow. Every year, much of the state gets about a 3-inch snowstorm, which you would think was a blizzard based on how everyone reacts. North Carolina people flock to the stores to get bread and milk with just the threat of an inch of snow, and simply cannot drive in anything much more than that. And that's despite the fact that many of the residents here are transplants from the upper Northeast. So it's like the people move here and then they forget how to drive in bad weather. Wildlife-wise, it's not very exciting. There's some venomous snakes called copperheads that people don't like. Every year, sea turtles make their nests along the North Carolina coast, and volunteers then rope the nests off so they can hatch each fall. And of course, the ocean has dolphins and sharks. And of course, every summer, a few people get their feet bit off while wading in knee-deep water. That's why I don't get into the ocean, folks. I like my toes, all 10 of them.
I don't let my kids go into the ocean either. I don't want them to drown.
I bet you don't, little Miss Bossy Mom. So I have a question. When you go to the ocean, do you wear a bikini? I mean, I can't even see how a bathing suit would even fit on you.
I have a really nice bikini body, actually.
Ooh, really? Okay, so that's a good rundown in North Carolina. We gave a higher level look at the Tar Heel State. Now, we could have talked about how everyone here goes to church every week. And we didn't have time to mention that there's very few Mexican restaurants here, which sucks. Nor did we have time to talk about why people in North Carolina are better than the people in South Carolina. But we have to go. Time's up. Basketball's about to start. And God willing, UNC will beat Duke. Because Duke sucks. North Carolina is a really pretty state. North Carolina has a lot of beaches state. North Carolina is a pretty boring state. North Carolina is a basketball state. They've got the redneck culture. They've got the NASCAR culture. They've got the smoking culture. They've got the trailer culture here. All the rednecks love it. All the rednecks love it here. All the rednecks love it. All the rednecks love it here. All the rednecks love it. All the rednecks love it here. All the rednecks love it. All the rednecks love it here. Rednecks love it here in North Carolina. There's beaches, there's mountains, and sharks. Hey guys, if you learned something new or you just like this video, make sure to like it. And if you really like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get all of our videos about what it's like to live in different places in America. Peace.